Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and this time we're going to be talking about different potential online functionalities, including maybe PvP or PvE in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So the reason we're talking about this today is because last week there were a few different rumors circulating talking about maybe some online functionality. Actually, one of these things isn't even really a rumor. We know there's going to be some level of online functionality with Tears of the Kingdom. It's really more of a question as to what degree will there be in Tears of the Kingdom. Is it going to be as simple as, hey, you can access the DLC, or rather the eShop, from the Tears of the Kingdom menu, just like in Breath of the Wild, or is there something bigger? That's what we're focusing on today. So let's first go over this first initial pamphlet here. I'll bring up some other things that people aren't taking as seriously, and then we'll go into all the speculation and ideas that I have for online options in Tears of the Kingdom. So this is a part that's not really a rumor, it's legit. We're seeing here there's actual marketing that's going out in different parts of the world for Tears of the Kingdom, and in some pamphlets we're seeing things like this. We're saying Nintendo Switch Online, showing that there is some level of Nintendo Switch Online being used for Tears of the Kingdom. Now, it could be something that isn't really significant. This has been discussed before, I'm sure other people have mentioned to you in different videos. But I do think there's a chance that it could be something that is significant. So there's a supposed piece of Tears of the Kingdom marketing that has a bit of a description on the online components of the game. And this, if true, could answer to why we're seeing Nintendo Switch Online showing up in the marketing for this game. But it's in a different language, and there's this supposed translation of it that seems a little bit rough. But I'm going to go ahead and read it here. I think it does make some sense. Interact with other players by leaving them resources, Tears of the Realm, and written messages. Explore the regenerating farmhouses with the help of a friend in online co-op, and share the loot via the members' exclusive shared exploration mode. Keep your adventure data safe with the Save Data Cloud. Add-on Pack Nintendo Switch Online plus Add-on Pack members have access to exclusive Sky Chest, Hyrule Lockbox, and more. So there's a lot here to dissect, and I don't know if this is real or not, but I think some of the ideas that are discussed in this translation do make some sense. So let's just go at it piece by piece. Interact with other players by leaving them resources. So something that I think should be considered here is that with Wind Waker HD, it had an online component where you could interact with other players throughout your experience. The Tingle bottles. You could put messages, drawings, or just, explaining different things or giving ideas, put it in a bottle, and it would show up on the shore for different islands in the Wind Waker and other people's games. It was a neat new addition to the HD remaster for Wind Waker back on the Wii U. We no longer have access to it because Miiverse is no longer in service, but it was a cool idea that I would love to see come back in future Zelda games, and honestly, I don't see why Nintendo wouldn't eventually come back to it. So this idea of having some level of interaction with other players, I think that could work for Tears of the Kingdom, even if this particular rumor is entirely false. So this idea of leaving them resources, well, I feel like that would just be an expansion of the idea of leaving them messages, which also is suggested here, and written messages. Now, this idea of Tears of the Realm, that I don't know what that is. Obviously, if this is a real thing, it's probably tying into some sort of new mechanic for the game, and if it's fake, then they're trying to guess at it from the title of the game, be it Tears of the Kingdom, Tears of the Realm. And maybe Realm is just a weird translation for Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe it's straight up Tears of the Kingdom that you have to collect throughout the game. Maybe these tears are the replacement for the Korok seeds, because they're going to have something new littered throughout the world for us to find. Maybe it's tears. That could make sense. Now, being able to share that with other people, I don't know how that would work. So that part leaves me a little skeptical here. And again, this rumor, I think there's a good chance could be fake. More likely fake than not. But again, some of these ideas I do think make sense. So let's continue on. Explore the regenerating farmhouses with the help of a friend in online co-op. So, online co-op. The idea of us exploring the entire game with another person, that I am highly skeptical of. The Zelda series is a predominantly single-player experience, and to develop the game with co-op entirely in mind, while single player also being entirely in mind, with all of different puzzles, I am very skeptical that they could put that together and it could work out really well. Very skeptical. If they do it, amazing. Go for it. But something tells me that's not exactly how it's going to work. However, here they're saying explore regenerating farmhouses with the help of a friend in online co-op. So, co-op throughout the entire game I feel like is not reasonable. But in certain pockets and moments in the game, that I could actually kind of see. So if there are these regenerating farmhouses, maybe there's more of an effort in terms of resource gathering and building with farmhouses and the like, and there's some level of mini games that are there, I could see them designing those specific portions of the game with co-op in mind. That I can see. I don't think it's really that unreasonable. But then it continues on, and share the loot via the members exclusive shared exploration mode. So this is, I don't really buy it. I just don't. But it's talking about a members exclusive shared exploration mode. So this would be suggesting that Nintendo Switch Online members have exclusive rights to exploring online, and I think, okay, obviously you need Nintendo Switch Online to use online gameplay, so if it's just that, fine. But initially I was interpreting that maybe for the expansion pack members, they get more features in their Tears of the Kingdom game. And if that's the case, that's definitely not going to fly. That is definitely not going to happen. But to design the game where there's a particular area or a large area that you can explore together, I don't know. To what extent? Is this the entire world? That I'm kind of skeptical of. I'm not sure we could see that itself, but maybe. I'm doubtful. But anyways, keep your adventure data safe with the Save Data Cloud. That's obvious. Save Data Cloud is a thing for most Nintendo Switch games, and DLC stuff as it brings on, also that makes sense as well. And having some sky chests or stuff like that, little add-ons, I can see. I don't know how I feel about Nintendo Switch Online members getting that exclusively, but it's not a super big stretch. So I don't want to focus too much on the rumor. I just really want to talk about some of the ideas that were conveyed there and if they made sense. What I do think makes sense for some sort of level of online feature for Tears of the Kingdom is going back to what I brought up earlier, building off the idea of the Tingle bottle and Wind Waker HD. I've been playing through Wind Waker recently, the HD version, and as I've been playing through this game, I've been noticing that there really are a lot of things that were done in Wind Waker that were truly building blocks for Breath of the Wild. Yes, the level of open exploration you saw in Wind Waker is greater than any previous Zelda, so that kind of matched up to Breath of the Wild, finally accomplishing on that open world dream for a Zelda game. But there's other elements as well. For example, the weapons. There's all these different weapons that enemies can have, and you can use those weapons. That's something we don't see in any other Zelda game until Breath of the Wild. And basically playing through this game, I can definitely tell that they were looking at Wind Waker as we were working on this Wind Waker HD to get ideas for Breath of the Wild, and we see that in the game. And one idea that they implemented into Wind Waker HD were the Tingle bottles, where you can exchange messages and drawings with other players playing at around the same time. They could bring this back in Tears of the Kingdom. This could be the online functionality that is being alluded to from some of the advertising. And it's nothing crazy because it's been done before. Maybe it could straight up be messages in a bottle that we see out at the shore. Of course, most of Tears of the Kingdom won't be out at the shore, so I might even argue maybe it could be like a little bird that drops the message, something like that we see sort of sprinkled throughout the world to give us another little thing to sort of explore, and it's something that's continually happening because there are players playing the game. And this makes even more sense for Breath of the Wild, or rather Tears of the Kingdom, than previous games. I'm assuming Tears of the Kingdom is like Breath of the Wild here, because Breath of the Wild was the kind of game that you would explore, and you would find all sorts of different cool things all the time. Everyone's experience is a little bit different, and there was this huge effort to share what was going on through social media. And even now, people are still discovering new ways to explore and play this game. And imagine if people were to discover something and there is a system in place within the game that allows them to share a message of how they went about finding this idea or this gameplay mechanic or what have you to other players. That would basically be an expanded version of what they wanted the Tingle Ball to be. It was about sharing hints and ideas and having fun with it. So now let's take this to another level here, because I was talking about PvP and PvE. If you don't know what that is, PvP is player versus player, PvE is player versus enemy. Now this is completely going in the direction of Wind Waker, but to a far greater level, and there's a game or game series or series of games that have been doing this kind of thing for a while, and that's the Soulsborne series. Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Elden Ring. These games have you exchanging messages with other players throughout the experience. There's a little bit of a hint system involved that sometimes people make jokes of, sometimes they take advantage to trap you, and sometimes it's just a legitimate hint, like, hey, be aware, there's something right around the corner that will kill you. Be careful. There are these kinds of things throughout the Soulsborne games, but they've taken it a step further, because as you explore the game, if you opt into it, you can see like shadows or phantoms alluding to other players, showing you what they did for a brief moment in the game. And I think that's something that we could see employed in Tears of the Kingdom. Imagine if there were shadow links alluding to the initial shadow link from Ocarina of Time, so a nice little homage to that. But it could be something where we literally see a shadow link, and it's something that's cool, and it's something that could fit throughout the entire world very occasionally if you so choose to opt into it, because you could opt out of online features in the Soulsborne games, and I'm sure you could do the same with any sort of online feature in Tears of the Kingdom as well. But this idea would be an expansion of the idea of sharing messages, because you could literally see someone actually going through the actions of what they were doing. But let's take it a step further. In the Soulsborne games, you could go beyond just seeing advice and the actual gameplay from people in brief sort of phantom moments, but you could actually invite them into your world, or you can invade other people's worlds, and you could either fight each other, or you could fight bosses together. So what if Tears of the Kingdom employs a similar system? I'm not saying that you explore the entire world together, but for particular moments in the game, where you could join up and play against maybe a giant powerful Lionel that's incredibly challenging, but with a friend might be more doable. That's something I could see. I think it's something that would actually fit some of the design philosophies of Breath of the Wild. So when we take a look at Breath of the Wild, and again, I'm assuming that these same design philosophies are carrying over to Tears of the Kingdom. But in Breath of the Wild, you didn't have to fight a Lionel, you didn't have to fight a Guardian, you didn't have to fight a Hinox, you could just run away. The way the game was designed, it could be very challenging for you, but you also had the option to run away, cook food, build up resources, come back later, just entirely avoid. There are so many different ways to play the game that it appealed to a large audience with different levels of play, different skill sets at handling different difficulties. So, employing this system where you can invite a friend over to fight a Lionel, some people playing Breath of the Wild could never dream of beating a Lionel by themselves. But if they invite a friend, it all of a sudden becomes more doable. Now, this isn't something you have to do, it's entirely optional. Personally, whenever I play the Soulsborne games, I rarely ever invite players into my game. I usually treat it as an entire single-player experience, but occasionally I might play around with it. So this is something they could do. And if they were to do this, I would hope that they double down on the difficulty and they have some even harder enemies deep in the depths of Hyrule, or in the skies of Hyrule, or whatever that realm is called in the skies. But I think this is something that would make a lot of sense. But let's go in the other direction, the PvP, player versus player. Remember how I talked about them using shadow links to represent other players in the world? And how that would be paying homage to Shadow Link from Ocarina of Time? Well, Shadow Link was someone you fought in a proper duel in the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. It's one of the most heralded mini-boss battles you've ever seen in the Zelda series, and it's really cool. It is a straight-up duel between one Link and another. So what if they were to enhance the combat in Tears of the Kingdom where this would be feasible? I actually think it makes a lot of sense. We have seen some evidence to suggest that they are working to improve the combat system. And the main piece of evidence are the patents showing the different animations Link has of using his bow and moving throughout the sky. These are showing a lot of combat options while you're flying through the sky. Now, this isn't showing sword gameplay and shield gameplay, things that probably fit better for a dueling system like we see in the Soulsborne games, but it could go in that direction. There could be more combat options. And thinking more on it, the Zelda team tends to be very reactive to criticisms from Zelda fans. They really do take feedback to heart, and oftentimes the next Zelda fixes those issues or tries it in a different direction to see if that fits the fan base a little bit more. So one common criticism for Breath of the Wild is that while the physics system really encouraged a lot of different combat options, when it came to the dedicated sword play or different weapons that you would use, it was limited compared to previous Zelda games. And a common sentiment for Tears of the Kingdom that people seem to believe is that there will be more Zelda tropes brought into Tears of the Kingdom to make it feel a little bit more like previous Zelda games, while Breath of the Wild felt like such a grand departure. This isn't to say that Tears of the Kingdom won't be a true sequel to Breath of the Wild with the open-air gameplay and trying out a whole bunch of new ideas, but what I'm trying to get at here is that there is a belief that there will also be a lot of ideas from older Zelda games that will be brought back and thought of in a way that makes sense for the open-air style of gameplay, and this may even mean going back to some of that sword combat idea that they had from different Zelda games and expanding on it. And another interesting thing to consider here, because I know some people may think, oh, how dare Nintendo copy Dark Souls? They would never copy another game. Well, Breath of the Wild took a lot from a whole bunch of other open world games like Assassin's Creed and the Elder Scrolls series. So nearly more than half a decade later, why wouldn't they look at other games that people have been playing since then that are similar to Zelda and take some ideas from that? Let's not forget that the whole Tingle bottle idea, everything we're talking about here is an expansion of that idea. So you could even argue it wouldn't even be them copying another series, it would simply be them evolving an idea they already had from a previous Zelda game. It's something that I think would fit the series really well, and would be the kind of online gameplay that I think would be pretty awesome. So if they were to improve the combat system, I could see something comparable to the player versus player mechanics we see in the Souls series. So that's something I think they could do, that I think would really improve the online experience. Now, if they have other ideas, like maybe there is like certain pockets where you can share resources and do things like that, maybe there is a farming area where you could work on building up resources and share that with friends, that could be cool. If they want to go in a bit of a Four Swords direction where multiple players can jump in together and do shrines together, different puzzles together. On Nintendo's Prime podcast the other day with Nate and Mike Odyssey and HMK and Sunbro Nation and Eric, we talked about this crazy idea of customizable dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, imagine what they did with the shrines and just make it a 3D dungeon maker. That would just give us an infinite amount of gameplay in Tears of the Kingdom. I don't expect them to do something like that, but what if they did? The possibilities would be endless, especially if it also had the idea of talking about in this video about interactivity between players playing online with the messages, the shadow links, the player versus enemy, the player versus player. There is so much potential here, and none of it necessarily has to take away from the dedicated single player experience that is Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom could still be an entirely single player game, but with these other options, they could complement that experience and it could be epic. But this is pure speculation, just ideas that I think make sense, but that doesn't mean that they'll actually do. I do feel like if I had to place a bet, I think my idea in terms of bringing in messages from other players similar to the Tingle bottle from Wind Waker HD, if anything that's been discussed in this video that kind of could come back that I think is likely, it's that, and I am optimistic that they could take it to another level. To what degree? Well, we shall see. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.